So I sit here and talk about video games all the time, but something I rarely talk about is my process behind talking about video games. It is high octane, I'll tell you that much. It should be no shock though that I play a lot of games that I never get a chance to talk about. Sometimes it's because I don't have anything I particularly want to say about one, but more often than that it comes down to just not having enough things to say to fill a whole episode. I can't just not talk about these games, I'm an addict and I need another shot of Star Fox. And that's why I made this show within a show, where I can talk about a bunch of games that I don't have that much to say about and that have nothing to do with one another in one clean shot. Welcome to Wade's Demo Disc. First on the docket, I want to talk about Coromon, or more specifically, the Coromon demo that's currently on Steam. Now this game, Coromon, is a bit of a ripoff of another game series, and I think it's pretty obvious which one. It's got Kirby written all over it. Being a blatant, shameless ripoff doesn't have to be a bad thing, though. I do personally think Pokemon's formula is basically perfect, but that doesn't mean you can't still change things here and there to make it interesting in a new way, and that's where Coromon really excels. It takes the concepts of Pokemon's IVs and Shinies and combines them together, creating the potential system in which you can get an idea of your Coromon's capabilities based on which of 3 color variations they are. It also takes Pokemon's effort values alongside every RPG ever's idea of gaining stat points upon level up, and adds a second experience bar that lets you dole out bonus points to whatever stats you want whenever you fill it up. It's these little things that really add up to differentiating Coromon from its obvious inspiration, but far from the only things. I mean, just look at that. Instead of spheres, they store your little guys in cylinders. Ugh. I knew I brought this for something. I'm not someone who hates 3D Pokemon like so many seem to nowadays, but I'm also someone who desperately misses sprites and pixel art, so the way Coromon looks is a huge plus for me. Yeah, the overworld characters look like they drink beach water, but just look at the battles, man. This is straight up beautiful if you ask me. And in terms of the monsters themselves, I feel like with a lot of Pokemon fan games and ripoffs, you end up with a few cute ones, and then for the other like 90, you're just like, oh wow, this one's gimmick is being ass ugly, I guess. But I wouldn't say that's the case here. I legitimately like most of these designs. My favorite is a tough call, but I think I'll go with Otogi, a little ghost type guy with a pair of masks. He does kind of show my one problem with the potential system, since his normal and good IV forms look great. Meanwhile, his perfect form took a swim in the piss. I suspect that just like Pokemon, they'll balance the difficulty around an average set of stats and leave the hunt for the strongest variants purely for competitive battlers though, so admittedly, it's not really that big of a deal. And speaking of the difficulty, it really does deserve a mention. Pokemon has always had a complicated relationship with this topic, which we will definitely talk about someday, but it's a pretty common opinion that the best difficulty in that series came from Red and Blue. And rightly so, this is impossible. Yes, the games can be cracked open like walnuts by certain Pokemon and strategies, but they didn't baby you, they didn't hold your hand. More than any of the other games, it felt like you were just dropped into this world and had to figure out how to survive for yourself. And if that's something you felt the series has been sorely missing, let me tell you, you are already sold on Coromon. The section of region we have available in the demo is definitely more on the modern, kind of linear design side of things, but the difference comes in with the routes. Woodlow Forest and Thunderous Cave are absolute gauntlets. If you don't repeatedly run back to heal, you are going to have fainted guys and many others on the brink of it. I still hesitate to call the game difficult, it just doesn't pull punches, and honestly, that's pretty damn refreshing. There are definitely some other differences from Pokemon here and there, but I'll leave those for you to find for yourself if you're interested. The demo is free, it doesn't take too long to beat, and you can even transfer your save data to the full game when it releases in 2022. You really have no excuse here. Usually Pokemon clones crash and burn for me, but Coromon is a serious force to be reckoned with, and I have no fear saying that it's just about the best attempt we've ever seen. I mean, what? Is saying that gonna get me a letter from the Robopon people? Next up, let's talk about the exact opposite kind of video game, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. Short and sweet, this is a massive entertainment titan from outside the world of video games trying to compete with Smash Bros. You can't make a joke when the punchline writes itself. The difference from the average attempt like this is that rather than just scrounging up some random developers and saying go wild, they actually brought in people who know what they're doing. Ludosity, the studio behind 2018's Slap City. Whereas that game was clearly trying to be goofy and ridiculous, this time they thought it'd be even funnier to take this game with SpongeBob and Invader Zim and put in the work to make it a real competitive game. The hype for this thing was actually kind of uncanny. Loads of people were saying it was legitimately going to be amazing and even the first Smash killer. So let's be real, did they succeed in making a good game? My answer is definitely yes. It's pretty fun, it's got a decent number of characters and stages, it plays like Smash without being completely identical, and there have already been tournaments for it. You can't say that's not a success. As far as being a Smash killer goes, only if I count to. Okay, if we're being reasonable, there was a 0% chance it was ever going to dethrone Smash. One series has two games that are both considered to be near the apex of competitive fighting games, and the other one has Powdered Toast Man. I don't know what you were expecting. The thing is, I don't think being a Smash killer was the developer's goal in the first place. It's just something the internet fighting game community kind of thrust upon them. I myself didn't really participate in any of this, but truthfully, I still almost feel guilty about the whole thing. The community basically gaslit them into thinking they had the next big thing, and now it's got less Twitch viewers than Radical Rex. A fate worse than death. Now, as much as I do enjoy fighting games, I have no choice but to admit that I'm a casual. I don't really know why it's fallen off so quickly, and I'm not positive I even can. Regardless, I'm not really playing it anymore either, and my early drop-off comes down to three things. Number one, obviously, if I'm craving a platform fighter, why wouldn't I just play Smash? And if I specifically wanted something a bit different from Smash, why wouldn't I just play Rivals of Aether? I think the duo of Rivals and Ultimate is legitimately just so powerful that the genre is virtually done for me. Until these get successors, they're not going to be replaced. Reason number two is that the game is a bit on the boring side mechanics-wise. My favorite character is Toph from Avatar, which is funny because it's one of the only shows represented here I've never seen, but they just feel so much more unique to play than everyone else, and so I have the best time with them. And number three, the saddest truth of all, it's a f***ing Nickelodeon game, you know? All of us who grew up with these shows and characters love them for sure, but when you compare to what other games have to offer, beating people up as Helga from Hey Arnold goes from a bucket list checkmark to kinda lame. I'm sorry to say all this because I do think they made a good product, but I just don't know that it ever stood a chance. Those three problems aside, the game is pretty lacking in content. You can feel in every fiber that it was made specifically for competitive play rather than both competitive and casual like Smash, and competitive play is a pretty limited demographic. And for all I know, the rollout of DLC characters will completely rejuvenate interest in this one, but personally, it just came and went for me. I mean, what? Is saying that gonna give me a letter from the Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl people? And finally, we'll finish things off with a game I have been dying to talk about. One that may very well be my absolute favorite indie game of all time. You best know I'm talking about Clustertruck. It was developed by Landfall Games, who are much more known these days for stuff like Totally Accurate Battlegrounds and Stick Fight the Game. Before all that though, they made the local pastor gasp with this wonderfully titled, glorious little 2016 platformer. I have made a big deal many times about games I play over and over again, like Mega Man 7 or Donkey Kong Country 2, but I can honestly say that neither of those games even come close to touching Clustertruck. You could tell me I'd played this game start to finish 50 times and I guarantee you I wouldn't even blink. Do me a favor and say it soon though. So what possesses a man to play a game enough for his whole lifetime in just a few years? Is it A, amazing, excellent, perfectly fluid movement that makes every second playing feel like a dream? Or is it B, psychopathy and loneliness? Never mind, forget I asked. On a formula level, the game really is just jumping on physics engine propelled trucks without touching the ground, but once you learn to start abusing that physics engine, that's when you get the real game. Because the trucks all move in a pretty tight pack, it's easy to think at the start that every level is just one straight line to the finish, but you can completely obliterate some of these levels with physics tricks. Wanna beat a Halloween bonus level by flying over the whole thing without touching a single truck after the first platform? You're goddamn right we're sitting through this entire clip. This is my proudest achievement. Don't want to deal with the snooze fest of dropping one platform at a time in this vertical level? The government would throw a f***ing fit if they saw this level of anarchy. This is what keeps Clustertruck alive for me. No matter how many times I come back to it, these little tricks never get any less satisfying, and I usually find yet another one in a different level. The cherry on top is that they even included a suite of upgrades you can unlock to shit on the level designs even harder. My personal go-to is the jetpack combined with the portable truck. This shit is straight up cheating. If a game being short really pisses on your Coromon, then I guess 90 levels that can be beaten by speedrunners in 15 minutes may not appeal to you. But if you like video games that are fun to just boot up for a quick run every now and again, I really think you'd be hard-pressed to find a better one than Clustertruck. And with that, episode 1 of Wade's demo disc comes to a close. I kinda like the idea of just having this mini-series sitting on the sidelines for whenever I feel like dropping a few quick reviews. Or maybe I'll just start filling it with stupid shit, I don't know. If any of the games we talked about here interest you, I recommend giving them a search and checking them out, especially in regards to Clustertruck. More people need to know about that game. But even if you look at all this, hear my endless praise and still aren't feeling it, I guess that's fine too. I mean, what? Is saying that gonna get you a letter from me?